Good morning and welcome to our third general breakfast meeting for this year. I'm John Kaiser. I'm your MC, and we will be formally introducing our guest, Bob Lutz, a little later. I think Jay will introduce Bud Lieber, who will introduce Bob, but we look forward to that presentation. Before we get into a couple messages, I'd like to tell a story about a pilot named Bob. I think it's a different Bob, but this Bob had an old airplane, and he would be outside the Iowa State Fair every year giving airplane rides for $10. And there was this older couple, George and Martha. They attended the state fair every year. They were farmers, and they'd go to the state fair every year. And every year, George would pause by the plane with Bob and be interested in the plane ride. And Martha would say, "No, George, we can't do that. That's $10, and $10 is $10." So poor George, he'd nod, and they'd go on into the fair. And this went on, excuse me, this went on year after year. Every year, George would bring it up, and Martha would say, no, George, or no, excuse me, yeah, no, George, we can't do this. It's $10, and $10 is $10. Well, Bob the pilot, after a few years, he noticed them coming by. So one year he called them over. He says, "You guys are getting up in years." He says, "Why don't you take an airplane ride?" And they said, "You always hesitate." He said, "Well, Martha says $10 is $10. He says, so Bob says, "Well, here's what I'll do. I'll give you a ride for free, but you got to promise not to say anything or talk or make any noise. Just take the ride." So Martha thought about it, and well, $10 is $10. We'll do it. So Bob figured he's going to get up there and give them a ride of their life and make them scream, yell, or talk, or say something. So they get up in the air, and Bob's doing these turns, these flips, these dips, rolls, whatever the terms are, and just all kinds of aerobatics, just all over the place, but not a peep from them. So Bob gives up. He lands the plane. Says over his shoulder, "Boy, I thought for sure I'd get you guys to say something." And George says, "Well, I thought about saying something when Martha fell out, but $10 is $10. This is the NCRO's 45th straight meeting. Been having these meetings since 2008 when we were formed, and so that's quite a record. And we thank you for your support and your attendance at these meetings. I think it's a great opportunity to get together. I think we had well over 300 people attend today, and then we got almost 100 registered on the webinar. So this is also on the webinar, and I'd like to welcome the people that are out there someplace in the air on the webinar. We thank you for your continued support. We hope you enjoyed another great breakfast. I think the people here at San Marino they're great hosts, and the servers are always fantastic, I think. So let me quickly cover a few things before we get into today's agenda. We invite you to continue to visit our website, which is ncro.org. We strive to keep it current. We try to keep good information on there that's of value to you. We have a couple IT experts that work very hard to figure this stuff out. We give them the input, but they've got to somehow figure it out. That's Granger Goodman and Rick Gopi, so we appreciate their efforts. Most of us think cookies are something you eat, and a browser is the guy walking around in Costco. But these guys know what they're doing, and we appreciate their work. Also remember, you can go online to the site and edit your information. So if you're changing your email, your mailing address, something like that, we really appreciate you keep it current so we can be in contact with you properly and not get rejections when we try to send you something, particularly when you send you the dues notice. I want to say a special thanks to our broadcast team, Dale Cook and his tech team. And we appreciate the work they do in terms of video and all this and broadcasting it and recording it. It's not easy to put this on. These guys get here early and they leave late. And they volunteer to do this for us. So without them, we couldn't put on the presentation. Also, our insurance committee, of which I'm a member, it's led by Rich Brown. The NCR website has a lot of very good healthcare information, not just healthcare. We get into WageWorks, we get into Benefit Connect, we get into even more recently aging issues because we think those are important. So we try to keep all that information current. Yesterday, October 15th, was the start of the annual election period, which means you can go in and make changes to your drug plans or your Medicare Advantage plans. And in that regard, we have David Baum from Butler Capital and David Key from Double Health USA. And at the end of the meeting, they will be available to handle any questions you might have. I'm not sure David's here yet, but David Baum, but David Key, as I see him over there. I hope you got fed, David. Remember, as a member of the NCRO, you automatically become a member of the NRLN, which is the National Retiree Legislative Network. We encourage you to ask your other fellow retirees, FCA retirees, to join the NCRO, and you could even invite them to this breakfast, get a feel for what goes on. We also ask that you continue to support our retiree-friendly dealers who advertise on our website. Representing today, we have two of the Gowling dealerships, Gowling Bloomfield and Gowling Chelsea. And then we also have Meloche Palace represented, and we have Rochester. I think it's Rochester Hills. All these dealers carry the full lineup. What I mean by that is they carry Chrysler Jeep, Dodge, Ram vehicles, and of course they have both sales and service. They support our organization, so let's support them by using their dealers, and that's a win-win because we keep them viable and we keep Chrysler viable. So that's very important. Thanks to all of you that paid your dues in 2019. Pretty much everyone responded to the notices that went out. However, November coming up, you're going to get notices for the 2020. So that'll be happening. Thank you also for your contributions to what we call our Contingency Action Fund. That's a fund that we separately maintain where we, if necessary, we use it to try to take action to protect our pensions. And since we're going from quarterly meetings to triennial meetings, this is our final meeting for this year. So our next meeting won't be till next year, but I feel it's a little bit too early to wish you a Merry Christmas. So finally, I'd like to review today's agenda. First up will be Jay Cooney, who will update us, and then he'll be introducing Bud, who will be introducing, of course, our guest speaker, Bob Lutz. Again, following the meeting, following the official close of the meeting, if you've got questions about healthcare or enrollment or any of those things, and I see David Baum is here. If you got questions, feel free to hang around and ask those questions. If you don't have time, or if there's too much of a line, you can get their information and talk to them later. I'll try to stand over there too, and maybe I can head off answer some of the questions, and Rich will too, because we're on the insurance committee. So with that, I'd like to invite Jay Cooney up.
Don't let this scare everybody. It's not that long. Thanks, John. I appreciate you standing in for Mike Sipineri, who wasn't able to be here. For those of you who have been here before and heard Mike, we didn't have to worry about John's joke being clean because we knew John's, but even though sometimes Mike gets a little carried away. Welcome to everybody. It's a great crowd. And obviously I know that after, John said this is a 45th. I was trying to figure out how many of these you've heard me at, and you're probably sick and tired of hearing me. And I have no illusions of grandeur that the size of this crowd has anything to do with me being a speaker. I understand that. I'm going to give you a quick update on what's going on with the NCRO and the activities we are doing on behalf of you. But first, I'd like to just personally thank Dale Cook and his guys. Again, you guys gave him a nice round of applause, but you really don't realize what they do for us. This is not easy, and we've gotten a little more high-tech with screens here that we can see, and you can see the stuff on there. It's a lot easier to see, so the guys work really hard. And welcome to those on the webinar. Most of you may or may not know that as John said, this is being broadcast all over the United States by web. So there are people in California and Florida and all over the place that are able to actually visualize and see what we're doing here. So it's pretty good. We like to bring all of our members in, not just those in Southeast Michigan. And then I'd like to just do a quick thank you to the board. There's 20 of us on the board of the NCRO, anywhere from administrative assistants to vice presidents, and all volunteer and work very, very hard on behalf of you guys, trying to do everything we can do to protect our pensions and benefits. And if you have issues with anything, the insurance committee is a spectacular group of guys that take care of that. So I appreciate the board very much, and thank you. And Dave Poxon, appreciate what you do leading this event and trying to get it all put together. So a lot of people behind the scenes doing this work. Quickly, 3 things I want to talk about, and I'll do it as quickly as I can without missing the important part. First of all, I want to talk a little about the NRLN Washington fly-in. We just went there on the 23rd and 24th of September, and I want to cover what we did there very quickly and where I think we are on a couple of the issues that are important. Then I want to talk a little about the 2020 healthcare plan. We met with Chrysler, FCA, excuse me if I say Chrysler, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, FCA, but Chrysler, on a healthcare plan for 2020. And then I just talk a little about a new lump sum buyout offer that's on the table that probably doesn't affect anybody here, but you might hear about it, and I want to allay any fears or just let you know what's going on with that. First, NRLN flying. That was September 23rd and 24th. 7 of the NCRO board was there. I should say 7 board, 1 leader. Mr. Brown refuses to be a leader, but he leads the IC committee very, very well. We have 2 days worth of meetings. First day is an NRL meeting, and first of all, there's a board meeting in the morning, and I'm on the board as well as Dana Oliver, who's a member of our board. She's on the NRLN board. We meet and talk about what the NRLN issues are and what they're doing. And then we have an afternoon session with all of those who are there advocating on behalf of all retirees, you guys in particular for us. And we review what's going to happen and where we're going to go the next day and what we're actually going to I can't say lobby, sorry, because we can't officially be lobbyists, but what we're advocating for on the Hill. This year we did something different for the NCRO because the NRLN had some issues that they wanted to talk about, which were more global in concept: Medicare Advantage, Medicare program, Social Security, and cost of health care, which we think are very, very important. But there's a couple of issues that we believe were most important for the NCRO group. So we actually had 2 folders. We had the what would be the NRLN folder, and then we had the NCRO folder. In that separate folder for us, we reviewed pension overpayment issue, which I'm going to talk just a little about. We reviewed pension plan de-risking, which is the issues that we see with annuitization. We've talked about the annuitization that Chrysler has gone through and several times. We also wanted to talk a little about protecting pensions and mergers and acquisitions. That may be something that we should be interested in, even though that part of the FCA mergers and things has kind of calmed down, but we think there's a little smoke, and where there's a little smoke, there may be a little fire. And then reduce cost of prescription drugs, which we all are think it's important. One thing I want to talk to you about is Deb Morissette. Raise your hand, Deb. She's on our board. She's also a key member of the NRLN organization. And I just want to give her a shout out because Deb is a tireless worker. Many of you know Deb from her time at Chrysler. She's an amazing, tireless worker. And part of her responsibility on the NRLN is to go over any bill in the House or in the Senate that is something that might affect seniors. So far, she's been through 300 bills. And not only does she go and read every one of those bills to see whether or not something we should support, but she actually writes a little white paper on those. And then that goes to the NRLN, and that's part of what we decide as an organization of what we think needs to be supported, so it makes retirees' lives better. So, Deb, I just want to tell you, appreciate all you do. Second day is when we actually go and meet with our representatives. And this year, we met with Senator Peters and Senator Stabenow in Michigan, Senator Brown from Ohio, Senator Scott from Florida, and Representatives Slotkin and Lawrence from Michigan. We all split up. We take our stuff. We go and talk to them about the specific things that are important to us and ask them to support us and support bills that are there that would again be supportive and be helpful to retirees. I want to talk just quickly about the pension overpayment issue, and I guess we've talked about that. Maybe some people think it ad nauseum, but I want to relay just a little story I got from one of our members, and I'm going to read you an email I got from that person. It says, pension overpayment references at our breakfast meetings became mundane until it happened to me. Please forward to whomever is leading the issue and advise what I should do. So, and that happened a couple of months ago. So the pension overpayment issue that I talked about, everybody remember what I'm talking about, pension overpayment issues? Okay? It's still out there. Every one of us is on a cloud, got a cloud hanging overhead that we could be audited and we could have our pensions reduced because of an error that was made by FCA, Chrysler, or their third-party organization. So, and I won't belabor all we've done, but we're getting really close. I will say we're getting close. Part of what I specifically did with Bill Catteright and Allison Parker, who's the lobbyist for the NRLN, is we met with 3 specific groups this time. One, Charlie Bolton, who's the legislative assistant for Senator Portman from Ohio. Why we met with Charlie is because Senator Portman is working on a bill, a retiree bill, that's either going to come into the Senate this year or early part of next year. And he's very interested in putting the legislative language that we've put together, and I talked to you about that last time, that will actually limit dramatically the possibility of pension overpayment issues. It can either eliminate it wholly, that the company doesn't have to do it, or it can limit it to 3-year look back. And if the company doesn't look back in the first 3 years, they can't go back after it. If they find out year 4, year 5, whatever, they can't come back they can come back and reduce your pension because of the change, but they can't come back and recover. Charles Allen, who's the senior advisor for the state Senate finance staff, he works with Senator Grassley. Senator Grassley also is working with us. He's a real advocate for us in terms of this pension overpayment issue, and they're working on continuing to do that legislation. And then Aaliyah Robinson, who's the senior VP of ERIC. Now, ERIC is the organization that really oversees ERISA. And why we met with these people is because we're about this close with the language of getting it into legislation. And the last hurdle that we had to run into was ERIC, and was ERIC supportive of it? We've got everybody else on board. And when we met with ERIC, Aaliyah said she is on board in all of our groups. So it's a group of businesses that are involved in ERIC, and they're all on board with our legislation. So we're making some big progress there on this pension overpayment issue to get legislation that will dramatically change the issue that we have. So stay tuned. Hopefully in the next 3 to 6 months we'll have something and it'll get passed, and then we can put this to bed. But it's been a big issue for us. We just think that it's wrong for companies to come back after retirees when they relied upon them for their pension and they had no idea. So stay tuned. Next, 2020 healthcare plan. We met with the FCA guys about a week or 10 days ago just to find out what the plan was. I'm going to go through real quickly because basically nothing changes except premiums are going to go up about 20%.
Under 65.
Under 65. Nothing changes. Basically, the plans are the same and whatever. But based on, as everybody knows, the cost of healthcare going up, that they weren't able to keep the premiums down. All of the stuff stays the same. Your out of pockets and all those stays the same, but the premiums are going to go up about 20%. So stay tuned when you get your package if you haven't already gotten the package on that. This year is the vision and dental signups. It goes every other year, so this is the year. So look forward to doing that, you should receive something that looks like this. If you haven't received it in your packages, you should receive something like this under 65 that takes you through exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and whatever. So stay tuned for that one. And for those of you who are over 65, you'll get your HRE news as well. That also explains to you all the issues. And for those under 65, enrollment begins on October 30th. Runs from October 30th to November 13th. You enroll online at Benefits Connect website on the screen, benefitconnect.ehr.com. You can do that 24/7. Or if you feel more comfortable enrolling by phone, you can do it by calling Benefit Connect. Again, same number that you have in all of your packets, 1-888-409-3300, and they're open from 8 to 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. For those of you who are over 65, we continue to try to get the HRA credits increased. Unfortunately, no one else is increasing them, so therefore FCA has decided that they'll remain the same. Eligible retirees or surviving spouses get $1,975, and if you're married, your eligible spouse gets $1,750, so it totals up $3,725 for the year. So that remains the same. Last but not least, I said lump sum buyout, and this has something that you probably haven't heard or seen, but there's a letter that's gone out from the company, and I understand now that some of those individuals who are eligible for this have now started to get their packages. Basically, it's for individuals who had made their required time at the company to qualify for a pension, but left the company. So these are individuals who are no longer part of the company. They're terminated, vested employees. Does not affect current retirees. Basically, what it is these individuals cost the company flat, or us, the NCRO retirees, part of the pension plan, because they pay to the PBGC premiums for everybody that's there. So it helps reduce the costs from the pension plan or for the company. So they're offering these individuals the opportunity to have a lump sum payout for their benefit, or to start their pension by December of this year. So I don't know if anybody has received that in here. It's possible, but it's for those individuals who left the company before they actually retired. So if you have any questions, if you haven't received it, I've got one I can give you here, or 844-264-2307. It's a number at Benefits Connect. Doesn't affect the retirees who have already retired, and it's just something I think the company's trying to do to clean up all of the pension plan issues. Now, do I say it? Okay. We'll continue watching this, though, because as you know, they've had annuities. They've done 2 annuities. Now they're doing a lump sum buyout for the terminated vested individuals. So we'll probably schedule another meeting with the FCA guys to kind of figure out what they may be doing with the rest of us that are still under the FCA plan, if there's any plans for future annuitizations or whatever. So, any questions, you can come to us afterwards, and we'll try to do that. Again, I can't tell you how much we thank you for your support. I say this often, that there is a real reason for the NCO to be in existence. If you had an issue with the health care or pension plan or whatever, and the NCO didn't exist, I wonder who you'd go to, because you can't get to FCA individuals anymore. So the NCO, I think, is a great organization for the retirees, because we're here to help you guys. So if you ever run into issues or whatever, feel free to call. You guys know my number. If you want my number, you get my personal number. I'll give you my card, whatever. You can get to the IC. You can go to our website and get to everybody, and we're here to help. So again, we can't tell you how much we appreciate your guys' support.